Hey everybody, I'm Jenny June. Thanks for joining me today. I am a certified child and family sleep consultant and lactation counselor, mother of 4 and a grandmother of 1. And I work here privately in my practice, or in my private practice here in Los Angeles, but with clients all over the country and even in other places in the world. And my work is focused on mostly pediatrics, but we're really heading into adult sleep as well. I'm a collaborative provider with the Breathe Institute in Los Angeles. And so I'm really enjoying working with the whole family and helping people to sleep better. I'm a sleep consultant. Hi, Hanny. How are you? Thanks for joining me. Hey, Mark. Good to see you again. I'm so happy that you guys could all join me. I'd love for you to put your comments and your thoughts and your questions or concerns or even some good ideas or tips. Today we're going to talk about how to beat the summer heat for better sleep for the whole family. So I'm going to give you a few tips. First, we're going to talk about why it's important to kind of really try and regulate the temperature of the room. When we're overheated, when the room is too warm that we're sleeping in, we tend to get a little overheated. It's harder for us to regulate our core body temperatures, especially little ones. In fact, your little ones, especially under a year old, they have a really hard regulating their core body temperatures. And if they get overheated, they're at higher risk for SIDS, especially around that 6-month age. So we really want to try and keep it nice and cool in there if we can. Hi, Iari. Hi, Baby League. Family League's with us today. Thanks, guys. So happy you could join us, and I hope I can give you some good tips to take away today and sleep better in this hot summer weather, especially for those of us that don't have air conditioner in the northern regions of the United States. A lot of homes are, I grew up in a home in Oregon that didn't have air conditioning because it was, cool most of the year. But boy, when it got hot, it was miserable trying to sleep. And I raised my kids partly in Oregon as well before we came to California. And I just felt so bad for those little ones when they would, come out of their rooms and they're just all sweaty and they're miserable and they can't sleep because it's too hot. So the tips I'm going to give you today will hopefully be something that you can use for your little ones and yourselves. Let's, talk about the ideal temperature first. So the ideal temperature for sleep is anywhere between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to err on the side of cooler than warmer because in cooler temperatures, we actually produce more melatonin, those powerful sleep hormones. And so, we want a lot of those so that we can sleep throughout the night and not have that fragmented sleep. When our core body temperatures start to elevate because it's too warm in the room or we're too bundled up, then we have a harder time getting to that deep restorative stage of our sleep cycles. Our sleep is fragmented, and we are missing that slow wave component when that happens. And then no matter how many hours of that you have in the middle of the night, you're still going to wake up sleep deprived. And of course, with little ones, it can really exacerbate into poor napping and then another night of bad sleep. So we really want to get it under control as much as we can. All right, so with that said, I'm going to just list a few little tips that might help. The first one is to insulate the room if you can. The windows, especially with little ones, they're in there sleeping most of the day. When they're playing and doing other things, we really should have them in different areas of the home or outside the home, something more stimulating for them because they sleep a lot. And so we want to get them out of that environment. So don't worry about having to black out the windows and leave them blacked out. I like a product called Blackout EZ. You can get it on, Amazon Prime if you want, or on their website, letter E, letter Z, blackoutez.com. And that's a great product because it's like a nice thick kind of vinyl-like material, and you just cut it out the shape of your window. It's got some faint graph lines on one side of it, and it just adheres directly to your existing window or to your window behind your existing drapes, directly covering all the light. And it does the job of kind of really blocking the heat too, which is nice. So if you could do something like that to your windows in the room, you'll be able to insulate the room a little bit from the warmth of the sun hitting the window and warming up the room. So that's helpful. And then also, if you've got a fan, keep a fan going in the room. And I like to add a humidifier to that as well. Create a little bit of humidity in the room with a fan, and it just kind of, puts a nice breeze in the room, blowing some of that moisture around, cooling the moisture in the air down, and it feels a lot cooler than the temperature of the room would be otherwise. You don't want to get it too humid though, because it makes it uncomfortable and hard to breathe, that kind of thing, and it also will breed bacteria. But a nice medium level humidity in the room with a good fan, and just make sure that fan isn't blowing directly on your child while they're sleeping or yourself. yourself, because that can tend to wake you up in those lighter, more active stages of sleep. Oh, I see my friend Jacqueline is here. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. And thank you, baby. Like, yeah, so that's a good tip. I mean, that one is a tried and true one. The other one is one I've tried before that I really like, and I've recommended to my families, is just take a your child's bed sheet, the flat sheet that lays over, not the fitted one below, but the one on top, the bed sheet, the top flat one, and get it a little bit damp. Just spritz it with a little bit of water, and then fold it up and put it in the freezer. And keep it in the freezer and get it super cold and kind of a little bit crispy and icily, those little icicles, those little, ice droplets will freeze up. Those water droplets will freeze up. And then when you're ready for bed or they're ready for their nap time, pull it out, and it's just absolutely the most wonderful thing when it's super hot in the room to sleep with. Again, don't get it too wet, because eventually it's gonna, thaw out and get warm again. But it's really helpful to do that initially when it's hot at night and they're having a hard time sleeping. Keep a couple in the freezer. So if they get up in the middle of the night, once it heats up again, or the sheet starts to thaw out or get warm, you've got a backup one in the freezer, and that'll be helpful. Now, I like to do that for myself too if I'm feeling a little overheated. And then another tip is to get a water bottle and freeze it, put it in the freezer, and just freeze the water that's in the bottle and put it at your child's feet at the bottom of underneath their blanket, or even if they're not wearing blankets, just keep that at their feet. Try not to have socks on ever when it's hot out. I mean, obviously most people wouldn't do that. We're sleeping in as little clothing as possible to manage the heat, but we can really cool ourselves down if we've got something cold at our feet. So a nice water bottle that's been frozen will help a lot. So that's one of my tried and true ones as well. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just keep the room as cool as possible. And maybe, if you have air conditioning, but you don't want to run it all day or all night, to save some money, just make sure you pump it, through the room and cool it down right before sleep. And that'll be helpful. So any little bit can help. But if we can regulate those body temperatures and keep it nice and cool in there, your child is going to sleep through the night a lot better than they otherwise would. And sometimes we get used to this hot weather and we don't realize how warm it is in the room. And we get used to it, but our children really, really need those cooler temperatures, and you do too. So hopefully some of these tips have been helpful for you guys. Does anybody have anything else to add? Any other things you've done in the past other than, just kind of sweat through it? If you do, put your comments in, down below and give us your tips. I always am looking for new ones, some creative solutions to beat this summer heat. Now, if you guys are interested, if anyone's interested in learning more about sleep, please visit my website, jennijune.com. You can go to my blog page. I've got some great videos there for baby care and some interesting information. I also post my services as a sleep consultant here in Los Angeles. So my services and my pricing page are there as well. All right, I'm here next week at 1 o'clock, same time, same place, except for actually next week we're going to be at the Breathe Institute, and we're going to be talking with Jennifer Brand again, who is a clinical nutritionist, and she's going to get into more detail like we got into some detail last week about eczema and sleep and all of that for babies, but we're going to get into the toddler and preschool ages and how diet can, your child's diet can really make a big impact on getting through that eczema or preventing it in the first place. So stay tuned with us. Come back to us next Monday or next Thursday at 1 o'clock, and we'll get into that with clinical nutritionist Jennifer Brand. All right, guys, thank you. It was great chatting with you, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.